What's up, Nathan?
How's it going?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm here.
Good. Yeah, I am excited about this guest tonight. I know I say that every time. There's like I'd never really had much interaction with Chrissy before. I think I'd been connected to her. I didn't even know it, but Amy Wills said something about Chrissy, or she had posted something. I don't remember what it was, or maybe Chrissy had posted when they had met something. Anyway, so I thought, well, she's a friend with Amy's. I'll connect with her too. Let me move so I can when I'm looking at the camera or looking at the screen. Um, so I thought, well, hell, I'll connect with her. And I looked and I was already connected, and we never really had much interaction. And then she posted her newsletter, and it's called First and Sober, and it's just about her journey into sobriety and quitting drinking and all that stuff. And it really resonated with me because, as y'all know, I'm a former meth head and kind of kicked that. Not kind of, I did kick that. There is no kind of, I kicked that. I'm not still dabbling in the meth, y'all. Um, and it really just resonated with me because you got this person who's just been a successful businesswoman being just so open and raw and vulnerable and very insightful is kind of what made me really interested because like she doesn't just look at it as like an abstract past part of her life. Like she has some really good insights into it. So I'm going to bring Chrissy out.
Hi,
Chrissy,
you're so
how are you?
nice.
I actually, when I was thinking of how to introduce you earlier, I actually had to make a note and put it on my computer screen so I
Be
wouldn't
nice.
forget.
Like, be
Yeah,
nice to
be
Chrissie.
nice to Chrissy. Yes, don't
Yeah,
be a dick.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, not a problem. And it, like I said, it really like it's refreshing because um, we talk a lot about people who have been to prison and committed felonies and stuff on this show. And one of the things we talk about is like the unconvicted felons and the people that you rub shoulders with that have never been convicted, like CEOs and COOs and all those kinds of people. And they don't talk about it. But
Yeah,
I'm not saying you ever committed any felonies, but you're very open about all your past mess ups.
yeah. I think that there are a lot of, let me put it this way. So I'm about to be 40. Okay.
I'm
So
41, so it's okay.
it's not a big thing for me. Anyway, so I'm about to be
Yeah.
40. And so I'm getting to, but I think my 40s are going to be really amazing because it's like you get wise and stuff and you like compound things that you learn, which is wonderful. And I think one of the very interesting things is that we as people, we have the ability to judge what we see. And so there's certain people that have things out in the open, whether they choose to have it out in the open or not, and it makes it,
Hmm.
judgeable. But how many things do like everybody else have that you just don't know about?
Yeah.
And you can't judge it, but these people are throwing their stones, but they have no idea. We have no idea what's going on in their lives, and I'm sure that they all have plenty that we could be judging. But
Yeah.
some people have things that they struggle with that will be out in the open, and other people have things they struggle with that are conveniently behind closed doors. So,
Hmm.
I think, but we all have things we struggle with, and we all have things that are judgeable.
Yeah, 100%. And part of
But
my,
I condone judging, but
yeah, not that you condone judging, but yeah, no, I understand. Um, my therapist always says that, how does she word it? Um,
and yes, Tiffany, 46. Anyway, sorry, go
yeah,
ahead.
I know, right? Something about like the shadows only live in the dark or something like that. Basically, it's only bad if you keep it a secret. Now, you don't want to bear all things. I mean, if the statute of limitations isn't up, then please don't tell me what you did. But yeah, I mean, being open about it, like to me, being open about kind of the stuff I've been through has been really like cathartic and healing too. So not to try and hide it anymore. It's not like something I don't know that I'm ashamed of anymore, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. Shit happened and it happened.
Yeah. I've always been a pretty open individual. Um, I think this piece of it, though, there's been a progress that I've had that has been slow, and I don't even know that I recognize maybe being in a different place. I think that there's things I would have second guessed sharing for fear of perception, and what if in a business place or business setting people will look at me this way if I share this. And then, but it was just time. It was just time to do that. And so I'm really excited about it and honored to be able to share. And it's almost like every week I get at least one private message of somebody saying thank you, which is wonderful because it just keeps me going, because with this type of content, people aren't really going to be shouting that they're reading it and excited about it for the most part.
Right.
But I've had people say, are people going to know that I subscribed if I do? Like, will they be able to see it? And so there's this insecurity also about engaging with it. So there's kind of this faith that I have to have that people are reading it and people are being impacted by it, because they're not going to like throw up signs and be all excited about it.
Yeah.
And it's what makes me really thankful for people like you who do, because it's nice to know that it is resonating and landing, because it is. There's just a lot of heart and soul that goes into all of it.
Yeah, you can tell 100%. You can tell. And that's part of, I mean, I like your content, but part of the reason too is I comment on it is for the people that aren't commenting, so that they're reading your story and seeing it, and maybe they're seeing one or two more people in the comments that have said something about struggling with addiction in the past.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's not just whether they comment or not, or engage or not. There's just one more little tidbit of them being able to see somebody that's been able to kick it,
Yeah. And I wouldn't be where I was today if people did not share their stories. And I was blown away the first time. Like, it's funny. I never read the woman's book, like the Mel Robbins book. I literally got through like the second chapter or the first chapter. And she talks about the fact that she was drinking to cope with a really difficult time in her life. And I was completely floored that anyone was talking about this. And I didn't even realize how much I needed to hear it. And it was because I wasn't going to confide in any real person, because if I confided in a real person, no one was judging me or telling me what to do. And that was not what I needed. So to hear somebody else talking about it was just, and this was a normal person, right? This is a normal person. And I don't even really realize that I didn't know what a functional alcoholic, I think, was, which just blows my mind, because I'm like, of course I did, but I don't think I did. I don't think I even really knew what that was until I started digging into it at that point.
Yeah. So, and one thing too, like if you're going to confide in somebody about it and you're scared of them judging you, if you're going to confide in somebody, you've already kind of reached a point where you think you may have a problem. And I would think too, so you're either going to, my fear would be, I'm either going to run into somebody that's going to judge me, or I'm going to run into somebody that's going to either enable me or say, it's okay, you don't have a problem, or whatever.
Enablers were way more prevalent. And I think, what's interesting is it's almost like, have you ever seen anything where it's like someone gets pregnant and then all they see are pregnant people? Or something happens that you're trying to avoid in a movie, and then they see all the things that they're trying to avoid. When I quit drinking, I was absolutely floored at how inundated we are with drinking. You need to drink to get to be calm, drink to have fun. Oh, you going for a drink after? Oh, gotta have some wine. Oh, you're stressed? Like, have some wine, have some, this. And I was completely voluntary part of that culture, but you don't realize how overwhelming it is until you pull back. And so when you are thinking about the fact that, okay, maybe I shouldn't be drinking, which if you're in that place where you're functional and your life looks good, it's probably years that you're in that place where you're sitting there going, okay, I know that this isn't what I probably should be doing because I feel like crap mentally and physically, but I'm not going to stop. Like, what, I can't stop, or whatever the case may be. But yeah, people are quick to tell you that you don't have a problem, because then you're not going to be as much fun.
Right.
What does that say about them if you do the same thing as them? And, people are mirrors to one another. So if somebody around you all of a sudden stops drinking, well, then what does that say about me? Now I'm looking at somebody not drinking, which interestingly or ironically enough acts as a mirror to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So it's why the people who do drink, and if you do drink, you know what I'm talking about, you wait for somebody else to open it. Like anybody else is like, hey, you want a drink? Or is anyone else going to drink? You're so excited that you weren't the one that had to ask or say it. Or you go to an event that you weren't sure people were going to be drinking, and then you see alcohol and you're so excited. Like,
No, 100%. And also it would be like, if you and I are drinking together and you stop drinking, then all of a sudden it makes me have to stop and think, well, if Chrissy has a problem, maybe I have a problem. And I don't want to,
yeah,
I don't want to face that. Like you said, it's a mirror.
yeah,
So it's going to make me do some major introspection there.
yeah. And I drank to really numb and to get
Mm-hmm.
away from a lot that I didn't want to face and process. And so I really disconnected from myself hard and didn't
Mm-hmm.
even realize that was the case. And
Mm-hmm.
then it was like this process of, I don't even know what I enjoy doing. I don't even know what my interests are. Like it just got to this point where I just wasn't spending any time with myself.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually realized too in hindsight that I was even avoiding certain genres of music because it would make me feel a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
And it was very interesting, the things that I in retrospect see, like how my behavior avoided really being with myself
Yeah.
and things that I was really afraid to process.
Yeah. 100%. So how did First and Sober, the newsletter part of it, get started? Like, what was your whole like thought process leading up to that? Um, and like what kind of pushed you over the edge or just spawned that idea or whatever?
It's interesting because I've always been, hold on, I think I'm gonna like choke on something. I've always been a really, really passionate individual. If you can probably tell. I don't know, do you study the Enneagram at all? Because I'm a
Yes.
hard 8 if you know the
Yes.
Enneagram.
I do.
So I'm a very passionate person. I'm a lot to handle sometimes. I'm very intense. And I love human behavior. I've always studied it. And I always have a lot to share. So like the Enneagram, right? So I always
Mm-hmm.
have a lot I want to share. I want to help people. Um, and so this was all happening offline. And what would be interesting is I would get this feedback from people that you need to be more than some LinkedIn guru, right? You need to be more than just what you do. You're more than that. You have more to offer than that. And it led me down this path of, okay, well, what is my personal brand? What is it that I'm offering to the world?
Mm-hmm.
And, what's my purpose here? Because it's something that I've known I needed to figure out. I'm very impatient, as someone who'd be addicted to substances would be, very
Right.
impulsive, very impatient. And so
Yeah.
for me, it took a while, which is very unlike me, but I forced myself to do it, to kind of stop and let it come to me and let it simmer, which was not easy. It was so not easy. And so I started journaling, which is my major thing. I have like 25 journals of my life. But just what are the areas that I'm passionate about? And I started really breaking it down. And it was this process. Okay, so what is it that I'm going to be sharing? Is it parenting? Is it trauma and recovery? Is it, what is it? And I was trying to figure this out. And I was talking to my speaking coach, Carol Cox, and she was talking to her about my personal brand. And I said, well, I think what I really want to share about is like personal and professional development. And she's like, Chrissy, that's very general. You might want to be more specific. And what became very, very clear to me is the all-encompassing everything is sobriety. It's
Mm-hmm.
where everything, I mean, yes, it's almost like I can look at my life as to the progress I made to get there, where I
Mm-hmm.
was ready to be sober and face all the feelings. And now it's been post sobriety, what I've had to face after pulling away that curtain. But it's like with everything I'm passionate about, it all falls under that umbrella. It all
Mm-hmm.
falls under removing that first. And I just really recognize like I have this massive, major passion for people who are hiding in plain sight and
Mm-hmm.
experiencing life and looking like they have it all together, but they may very well be just miserable
Mm-hmm.
inside.
Because you've been there.
Absolutely. But you don't, sometimes you don't even know it. You have no
Right.
idea. And you know, it's not anybody's fault and it's not, you know, but it's just there's things about yourself that you haven't faced yet. Things that are stuck, you know, stuck and trapped that you have to deal with, and you using a substance as a way to not face and deal with it.
Mm-hmm. 100%. So I think it was maybe last week or the week before, you had mentioned something about not being addicted or not really being an alcoholic, but having an unhealthy relationship with it.
Oh
But
yeah,
at
about
this,
the actual term or phrase,
the
alcoholic.
actual term or phrase, yeah, kind of tell us a little bit about that. Expound on that a little bit for everybody that didn't read the newsletter. That was like brilliant to me because I hate the label alcoholic and the label addict because it's such a permanent thing.
Yeah.
And I feel like that, you know, I've been sober since 2008. I don't feel like I'm an addict anymore. Like I
Right.
did drugs for 3 years out of my 41. You know,
Yeah.
like I don't feel like I'm an addict anymore.
Absolutely.
So talk to us about that. Like, what is your whole?
It's really interesting to me because I think there's so many reasons, you know, some people really identify with the label and
Mm-hmm.
other people hate it. And there's so many layers to it, which is I think why I really wanted to write about it. Because number one, I think that I don't like the fact that the one thing I really don't like is when it's like, but this is my perception, so I want to preface it with this because some people may really like this about it.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't like when people say stuff like it's a disease, because to me, it's kind of giving the impression that you were stamped with this when you came out of the womb, and someone else can't get it or they don't have it, which
Right.
is ridiculous. If you're using an addictive substance, you can become addicted to it. No matter if you started when you were 50 or you started when you're 20, you can develop an addiction to a particular substance.
Mm-hmm.
I think that with me personally, no, I don't feel like an alcoholic. I just have a problem with alcohol. But I've seen people use it as a boundary because we
Mm-hmm.
talked about the enablers, and there's people who you'll say, I quit drinking. Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
stop. Just have this. And I knew somebody, I met him probably like 15 years ago, and he was telling people I'm an alcoholic so people would stop bothering him because he chose to give it up because it was an unhealthy relationship with it for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But he he used the label so that people would leave him alone. And so I think,
Wow.
but you know, people use different people. Some people love the label and that's what they identify with. And then other people, it's not their thing and they don't want to.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things that I did write in that I found really, really interesting is that I spent so many years trying to like I said, the whole thing about don't be the first one to mention that we're
Mm-hmm.
drinking, don't be the first one to, you know, do this, that, or the other, you know, to make sure that no one noticed that I was drinking and whatever. And just kind of subconscious trying to hide the behavior to post sobriety, having to try to convince people that I even remotely had an issue with it so they would take me seriously. It was like I'm trying to deny it up until I get sober. And then I'm trying to convince people, no, I swear I had an issue. It was so strange. Yeah.
Sorry, my notifications. I don't know how to turn that off. I never even thought about using the label to get people to leave you alone.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. It's sad though that has to happen. I mean, it's
It
not
really
like, you know,
is.
you roll up to a social gathering now and you have to tell people, no, don't give me any meth.
Yeah.
I don't do meth anymore because that's not something that's just kind of out there. So I never even thought about that from the perspective of not drinking though.
Yeah. It's interesting too, because I actually, so sorry, there's like a party going on out there. No alcohol.
I was going to say, is there alcohol?
No. I actually was at an event somewhat recently after I quit, and it was at a steakhouse. I'm gonna have to put my earphones on. Hold on.
Okay.
To this with this. Can you hear me still?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Noise cancellation. And we're on. No, come here. Hold on one second.
Okay.
I'm live. Come here. Close the door. All right. So you wanted to see the Detroit Lions. This is Herman. We're talking about First and Sober.
How's it going?
Hey, man. How are you?
Hey, awesome.
Good.
Very nice to meet you.
You too.
You're on live with a whole bunch of people on
Oh.
social media.
Hi, social media. I'm happy to join and say hi to everyone.
What's your perception of First and Sober?
My perception, I think, is awesome. I love whenever there's a community. I love when people give a voice to a cause or to something of some type of a subject matter that means something to them, where they can talk intimately about it. The one thing I feel that's sometimes gotten missed, and if you go to a lot of the social channels, what I'm drawing a lot to are those that are authentic. People who, it's not about abandoning or covering up who you are as much as you're talking about how you hit it head on. And even if it's from how you deal with success to how you deal with, falling down and having to get yourself back up. It's all the same to me. It's a lesson that we all can really take to heart, and we can all take and figure out a way in which we can be a voice that allows others to really gain from it. And so that's the part I love about First and Sober. I think that's really the messaging and the story behind it. So I congratulated Chrissie for going out there, because a lot of people will hide behind that and hide behind things that they perceive or the public perceives as being something negative. I mean, it's a part of our lives. Everybody's got something.
Yeah, everybody's got something. And that was one of the things that really kind of drew me to Chrissie's message, was just the fact that, you've been in the business world all your life and been successful at it. And you were that kind of a stigma or label of being an alcoholic is something that can shame a lot of people, but she's turned it around and used it as a voice and used it as a way to help people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's so much needed. I mean, I love being out in places where you can be that voice of, change. You can be the person that stands out and gives the encouragement to others that they're not also alone. And we hear that, and sometimes people will use a lot of these terms and these phrases as throwaways, and I don't. I think there's some truth to it. And sometimes it's delivered in its most simplistic way versus having to overcomplicate it and give it vernacular that doesn't make sense.
Exactly.
Smooth and cool and all that, or put it down in the bottom place. But it's just conversation, it's communication. Yeah. And this is great. I'm glad that I was able to just pop in. I won't hijack this. But I love following, and to all the people that are joining, and to both of you. I think it's wonderful that you can have these type of discussions. I think it's wonderful for the soul. We need to continue to feed ourselves that. So thank you for all that.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Harmon. Appreciate you, man.
Yeah. Pleasure. Thank you, Chris.
And we're still in the office at 8:30.
Did you stay in the office just to come on this? Like, was it going to be this? No.
You're late. But yeah. No. So there's Herman.
There's Herman more, y'all.
So one of the things that was interesting to me after I quit, I was at an event, and it was at a steakhouse, which is still a trigger for me. I very rarely really crave alcohol, but I have such a hard time being around red wine. Like, that is my baby, and I miss it so much. So if I can smell it, and like, steakhouses are so hard. So anyway, this was very recently after I got sober, and I was there for an event that I had to be at. And what's really sad is that I had to make such a big deal just to get a drink that did not have alcohol in it. And then they wanted me to pay for it when the wine was included for everybody there because it had been like sponsored or something. And all I wanted was a drink that looked like a drink so people would leave me alone. and I wouldn't feel so ostracized. And it's
Mm.
something I didn't even realize was going to happen, because I remember people saying something about mocktails, and someone recently told me they hate that phrase, but oh my gosh, they're the best thing. You need to have them when you're out. And I was like, that's stupid. That won't matter. And then I
Mhm.
went to my first event. Oh my gosh, it was saving grace, not only because it gives you a different perception of people, a different perception of you, but it's amazing what just a fun drink that is not water will make you feel when you're surrounded by people who are able to drink alcohol and you're not. So it really
Yeah.
did my psyche a lot. But it's interesting that we have so much pressure on ourselves culturally.
Yeah.
Everybody drinking so much, and I don't judge people at all, which is weird because I've historically been quite a judgmental person, which I'm getting over. But interestingly enough, I really have no judgment for the drinkers. Like, I completely get it. I completely get that I was that person pressuring everybody I knew. What?
Mhm.
Come on, you can drink. Oh, I can take more shots than you. Let's see. That was a good idea. Like, let's try to
Yeah,
get the guy under the table, Chrissy. Great idea.
yeah, I can see that. What's crazy though is they wanted to charge you for something that was
Oh, it
probably
was
no more
terrible.
than Sprite with grenadine in it or something.
Oh
You know,
yeah.
like
It was all I wanted was like orange juice and cranberry juice mixed together. And it was like they had to go get it from upstairs from the bar, which meant they had to charge me. I'm like, you're kidding. Just forget it. Just,
yeah, yeah.
it was ridiculous. Anyway.
So yeah, I know you mentioned there's like some stuff under lock and key coming, but you've got some stuff in the works. It's kind of geared toward this, right? There's going to be like resources
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Actually my co-founder. So that's
okay.
not, so we're co-founding this one. And so there's plans for, there's going to be a website launching, and I do want to take it probably to Facebook. I do have a lot of personal connections on Facebook, and so I know that's a platform that it resonates to a different audience.
Mm-hmm.
So there'll be some things that we're looking to roll out. I want to do, there's just some tools, and just I'm really passionate about helping people heal and really kind of reconnect with themselves. And so my big thing right now is I'm trying to kind of think through in my mind, am I looking to help people along what point in their journey and how? Because me
Mm-hmm.
almost 5 years down the line is dealing with very different things than me, 5 months down the line or 5 weeks
Mm-hmm.
down the line. It's just a very different set of things that
Mm-hmm.
you're wrestling with. So trying to figure
Definitely.
out what to do and with whom. So
Cool. Very
if
nice.
you have any suggestions for anything you think that people would find helpful, throw them out.
I think that just like I keep saying, just being in the business world and being so open about it. And I don't know where your like you said, where your niche is going to be. And you mentioned going to Facebook too, because that's a whole different audience.
Very.
Um, yeah, very different. Um, on Facebook, everybody's open about what they do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Excessively so.
Yeah. I mean,
It's
you
very,
don't see.
there's a very specific reason I went to LinkedIn. I mean, obviously, first is because I have a following there, but just knowing the business reality of alcohol and just
Mhm.
how synonymous it is. And you see so many people in high powered positions just struggling, just really, really struggling. You
Mhm.
can see the pain, you can see that they're just really not connected with the self. And it's
Mhm.
just, so just kind of being open about it so that, you're not alone, because
Mhm.
there's just, and this is shame that can come along with it, especially if you're someone who you're in a high powered position. Maybe you're an achiever because people in your family place a lot of value on that. Or maybe you're an achiever because that's where you're placing your value. Whatever the case may be, I think there's people that are at the top who are so empty. And, you know, alcohol is one big way of coping with it. I mean, we've all been to those events that are like alcohol parties, sort of about business. Like,
Yeah.
you know, you go to the party and it's a hotel room or a hotel like conference area
Yeah.
with bars. Like that's it. There's
Yeah.
nothing, there's no other reason to be there. We're
Right.
at a conference that's basically just drink however much you want and then
Yeah.
stumble upstairs to your hotel room.
Right. And two, like in the business, and it's true anywhere, but it's really expected expected to give alcohol as gifts to other businesses and other, you know, bosses and managers and CEOs of other companies. Like, you know, everybody gives out bottles of scotch or whiskey or wine or whatever. Like, it's just so, like you said, so ingrained in the business world.
And I'm not a dude. Like,
Right.
you know, there's kind of that manly man thing that goes along with it when you're male. Chrissie was just the idiot, like I said, trying to match the males, which was really intelligent. But no, I mean, there's that thing. And it's weird because too, when you quit, you encounter those awkward situations where someone's trying to gift you alcohol or, you know, and it's a weird thing. So it's like if you're this manly man and everyone's drinking, you know, bourbon and whatever, like, and you say, no, thank you, I don't drink. Yeah, that you're going to feel great about that. So there's a perception about it that you have to come to grips with that, you know.
Yeah, that could be almost for some people emasculating, you know, like 100%. Yeah. So have you ever been in a situation where somebody's tried to gift you alcohol and you've had to tell them no, thank you?
I think I took it once and gave it to someone else. I think I did that once. I think I got a gift and I didn't, because I'm really bad sometimes about not wanting people to feel bad or not wanting people to feel awkward. So I've taken it and then re-gifted.
Okay.
So I've done that.
My chat just logged me out and I had to log back in. That is so weird. I've never had that happen before. Just on the chat side. It's weird.
I wondered what you were looking at.
Yeah, I was like, what the hell is that? I've never seen that. Anyway, yeah, I'd be the same way. Like, I wouldn't want to hurt the person's feelings or, you know, create the awkward moment of, no, I don't drink, take your gift back. I just give it to my to my alcoholic friend.
One thing I do though is I think because I'm so forward, and it's weird. Like there's a part of me that has historically enjoyed kind of shock. Like I've had to learn how not to make people publicly uncomfortable for sport. Because I didn't realize that you weren't supposed to do that. So like I would say things just to shock people and that wasn't good. So I had to learn not to do that. But one thing that I do, I will throw out there, oh yeah, well, I'm sober, or, you know, because I'm sober, blah, blah, blah. And it's interesting just how the reactions that you get. So I enjoy sometimes throwing that out there, not for the reaction, but it's interesting to do so and then observe the reaction because sometimes it makes people uncomfortable. Sometimes they'll say, oh yeah, me too. Like what was really interesting was the people that reached out and said 10 years. Oh yeah, I've been sober for this long. And oh yeah, I've been sober since 1997. And, you know, it's really cool. You know, the people that have done that. And then even more amazing are people that have reached out because I made a point every year I posted on Facebook, my soberversary. And I did so a little bit on LinkedIn the last couple of years. And I've had people come to me and say, you know, because you posted, I thought about it and I quit. And that's just like the most honoring thing ever. So, yeah.
Have you received any kind of like negative pushback since you've kind of gotten open about it on LinkedIn? Have you had any trouble show up?
I'm concerned about that I have not. I'm like, if I haven't, does that mean A, I have not arrived, or B, I'm just waiting for like a shoe to drop or something? I have not received anything majorly horrible.
Yeah, Nathan and I haven't either really. We've had some people that have differed in opinions on when it comes to like the way we view felons and like, especially felons' rights, like to vote and stuff like that. We've had some people with differing opinions, but they weren't a dick about it.
Right.
You know, they were respectful in disagreeing with us. So I wouldn't even consider that a troll. They were just respectfully disagreeing.
I've posted a lot about, or in 2020, I posted a lot about diversity.
Mhm.
I received stuff then. But for this, I haven't. Yeah, I'm not sure what that would be. I hope it doesn't happen. But
Yeah, I know, right?
if it does, I'll call you.
Yeah, let me know.
I'll just have you guys
Yeah,
come.
we enjoy those.
Yeah, exactly. We enjoy trolling the trolls.
Don't feed the trolls.
Yeah,
No,
I know
I
you're
mean,
not
I've
supposed to
seen-
feed the trolls, but
I've seen trolls hit me on, like when I've posted about mental health, when I've posted about several different things, but not once that I can remember on one of the Ending the Stigma posts.
yeah, me either.
Yeah. I think that if anything, you know, I can see other people like, because there actually is within the sober community, there's differing opinions, you know, in terms of Alcoholics Anonymous, in terms of like the label alcoholic. Like, that's why I was like, this is just my opinion, because there is a lot of differing opinions within the sober community.
Mhm.
So that's definitely a thing.
Right, and I'm kind of the same way. One of the first posts that I did along the lines of ending the stigma was talking
Y'all
about.
keep talking. I'm going to refresh my page because none of the comments are coming through. So I'm going to disappear for a minute.
Okay.
Okay.
Was talking about labels and how every label that you attach to someone, regardless of what it is, seemingly positive, seemingly negative, whatever, there's all these connotations and stereotypes and stigmas and whatever else that are attached to it, to the point where when you're using the label, people just see those stereotypes and stigmas and the label for what it's supposed to be, rather than seeing the person behind the label. And so I'm kind of like you. I don't accept these labels. I don't use them. I'm a very big proponent of people first language. So I'm always going to refer to, you know, a person who has committed a crime, or a person who, you know, has struggled with drinking, or a person who whatever, instead of the label.
Yeah, no, it did. Did it work, Chris?
Yeah, it worked.
It worked. No, I agree with you, Nathan. I think too that, like, if there is anything that bugs me about labels, it's like you'll have a very extreme situation happen in the news. Like, unfortunately, here in Michigan, there was a school shooting somewhat recently, right by here. It actually affected someone who works here. And they'll throw out stuff like, this is why mental health needs to be addressed. I'm like, you're really going to throw a school shooting under the umbrella of mental health? Like, that isn't even remotely what we're talking about when we talk about mental health help. Like, that is the epitome of one extreme. Like, that is not what, you know, so many people are dealing with day-to-day mental health things that we could be doing a better job addressing. Like, diversity in the workplace and perceived ways that people are treated within the workplace is a mental health issue too. So, you know, it's just interesting. That's one of the things about labels to me that is frustrating.
It's also damaging to the point where, okay, let's use the example of mental health. You know, people say, oh, well, I'm not a school shooter, or I'm still functional in my life. I mean, how am I supposed to talk about this and compare myself with these other people who are really struggling when I'm just having a bad day most days?
Yeah. Well, that's what I think when I said the thing about alcoholism being a disease. I think it allows people to separate themselves and say, well, I'm not an alcoholic, so I'm just going to keep going on with my behavior. At the same time, I believe that I don't think people change until they're ready to change. I don't think you can convince anybody who's drinking that they should stop drinking. I had somebody tell me, oh, I'm so sorry. Like, I thought maybe you'd had a problem and I didn't say anything this year. And I'm sitting there going, you could have said anything and I would not have changed a damn thing. Like, I would have just basically written you off or ignored you and kept doing what I was doing. Like, there's no way anything you said to me would have changed my behavior. I just would have gotten crazy defensive and, you know, written you out. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
my mantra used to be rehab's for quitters, and I'm no quitter.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that was kind of the mindset you have when you're stuck in that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I got all
We just
discombobulated and lost train of thought whenever I had to refresh. So what's next? Like, where do you see this going? I know we talked a little bit about the website, but like, is there anything like a big goal that you don't mind talking about or that is not under lock and key?
Yeah, I definitely see myself speaking about this for sure. I love speaking and being in front of people, and this is something I'm really passionate about sharing. So I definitely see myself speaking about this in the future 100%.
Cool.
In terms of the content itself, it's interesting because I do write it every week. I have one that I haven't shared yet, but for the most part, I just write it every week. And writing has always been my number one talent. It's been the number one thing that's carried me through everything. And I love to write. And I spend a heavy amount of time writing, rereading, really making it what it is. And like this last one that I wrote took me a really long time. It took me across multiple days, which that is not usually. I can write something in a matter of like 30, 40 minutes, throw it up, it's all good. But with this, I really wanted to, and it took a little bit of a turn because it wasn't as much of a personal narrative as it was talking about, areas that I've researched and things that I've experienced, but more talking about the phenomenon than talking about myself. I don't want to sit there and just like make a Dear Diary every week.
Right.
So I'm interested because I'm just kind of following where it takes me, what this is going to unfold into from a content standpoint. Because like I said, sobriety is just the all-encompassing container for this that was nothing else would be possible without it. Through sobriety, I started yoga when I quit drinking, and I've been practicing yoga for almost 5 years. I've done a lot of personal development work where I've gone to retreats and just cried for the whole thing because I've done a lot of inner work with people. I've done presence practice. I study the Enneagram. I'm in the Ann Arbor area, Valerie. So Southeast Michigan. So there's just a lot of different things, and I'm just a study. I love to learn about this kind of stuff. So for me, I've read so many psych books, so many different modalities of, things that people have tried. I had a book recommended to me about developmental trauma, I think. And it's just really interesting how all of and the body keeps the score. So all of that stuff, it all connects an Enneagram with in yoga with being present, being within yourself, learning how to live with yourself, live with your feelings, and really reconcile the traumas of the past. I've done inner child work has been a huge thing for me. So that too.
Cool. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because I was going to ask you about that, about like the writing. Like it's a big commitment to do a weekly newsletter, and just reading it seems like it would be really time consuming. But the fact that you can throw it up in 30 minutes is pretty impressive.
Oh, not these. I don't do these in 30.
Oh, okay.
No, these are taking me probably, I would say maybe 2 to 3 hours. The ones that I write in flow and telling a story, I usually write it, reread it, and make sure it's good. This last one though, that was very different. This one took me a couple.
Yeah, that's like most people doing like a once a month newsletter. Like, how do you? Because you're at the office now. Like, how the hell do you find time to do that? Like, where does that even fit into your schedule?
I don't sleep much. That's not true. I do work a lot, but for me, what I'm actually finding too is that I'm not journaling as much. This is kind of writing has always been the way that I express myself. the way that I love myself, all of it. So writing, I kid you not, I have journals that chronicle my entire life, which is fascinating. It's like having a time capsule from life, and you can go back and read what was in your brain in a particular time frame. So writing for me is just like breathing. And so for me, it's therapeutic. I genuinely enjoy it. So for me to sit down and be like, oh, I get to write another one, is I really actually enjoy it and like it.
Yeah. And you can tell, you can tell it's not just something that it's a drag for you to do, for sure.
Yeah, I've missed writing about things that matter. The last time I really did that was back in 2015 when I started working with the Chad Tuff Foundation. I'm not familiar, but Lloyd Carr, who's the University of Michigan head football coach, his grandson passed away from a brain tumor called DIPG, which is pretty much 100% terminal, mostly diagnosed in children. It's inoperable, and they usually live like 1 to 2 years. And I was brought in to help with that. And there was a campaign that we did, and I was tasked with reaching out to these families who'd lost their children. And it was a really heavy process, but I felt so honored to be able to tell the stories of these children, because this disease is looked over because it's so quote unquote rare, and because it's so difficult to treat. So to be able to write their stories, that was probably the most meaningful thing I've written until this. And so it's being able to write something that matters is just heaven for me. So I just love it.
Right on. Anybody in the audience have any questions before we start shutting this thing down? We're coming up on our hour mark here. Yeah, Valerie said it would make a great book. Probably a lot of the stuff, though, you don't want out there in public. If it's your
well, I can always
darkest...
use it for reference too, But yeah, there's some interesting. Yeah,
I bet. I've never been a journaler. Like the thought of sitting down and journaling just gives me all kinds of anxiety. But
I love it.
Yeah, I can see though. Like I wish now I had been, because I could go back and see, all right, what was I thinking at this point in time? Especially when I started getting in trouble with the law and messing up, and then started doing drugs and all that kind of stuff. It would give, I would imagine it would help the healing process. Oh, I was thinking that's where I messed up.
I will tell you this. If you are someone who is struggling with alcohol or drinking or anything, any type of addiction, and you're not ready to give it up, start journaling how you feel, because after you're removed from it, it's really powerful and necessary sometimes to look back, especially if you're in that functional space, like your life was not a complete train wreck. Because I actually journaled, I know I will become an alcoholic. I actually journaled, I can't picture my life without alcohol. But when you're removed from it, like there's a lot of people who have mentioned like, oh, I went 5 years and then figured I was fine and just figured I'd have one drink every once in a while, and then they completely relapsed. And so to be able to read that and go, oh, okay, it was legitimate. Like it wasn't just me making something up, and maybe it wasn't as big of a deal as I thought, and that kind of a thing. To be able to read my words in those moments of complete despair is really, really helpful at certain points, and probably still will be.
One of my most profound memories of being in prison was when I was still in county jail, swearing off, oh my God, I'm looking at, 15 years. I'm going to have to do 7.5 before I'm eligible for parole. I'm never touching drugs again. That stuff is trash. And then I got to prison and kind of started getting comfortable, like it wasn't so new anymore. And in my mind, I'd already started thinking, well, I'll still be able to, I can do it on the weekends. I got this now.
Well, I can do it on the weekends.
Yeah. So like I really feel like God knew it was going to take 7.5 years for me to get my head right, because
Yeah.
it did. It took probably 2 or 3 years of me being locked up to finally say, oh no, you can't do that on the weekends.
Yeah.
That's how that
Yeah.
shit started.
Yeah. Definitely. Wait, hold on. I want to read this question. How do you feel about speaking about childhood trauma if someone in your family caused your trauma? I am not, I don't plan on, and somebody that I'm in a group with, her name is Brenda Reese. She was talking to me about this too. I won't talk about anyone specific. And I'll make sure that anything I say you can't like follow a path and figure out anybody that I'm speaking about. I don't consider that any burden to bear, and I'm not going to call anybody else out. This is about me and my journey. So, I will protect names, roles, all of that. Which in some senses, can I not be as specific and therefore open to help people? Yeah, to a degree, but there'll still be plenty of insights to offer. But I definitely don't think it's my, I don't have the right to speak about anybody else in that light personally, unless I had their permission. What do you guys think?
Yeah, no, 100%. And I kind of read that question about, or read it as like speaking about your own childhood trauma if someone in your family had caused that. Yeah, and I don't know, because I hadn't walked in that, so I don't even know how I would feel about speaking about it if somebody else in my family had caused it.
Yeah, I don't know
In
that
my
people
opinion,
even know that they caused it.
Yeah.
In my opinion, there's no correct answer to this.
Yeah.
I think everybody is going to approach it differently, and everybody is going to have a different right way of handling that for themselves. And I think that you individually will know inside you, like whether that person needs to be confronted, whether it's something that you need to air out privately, publicly, anonymously, whatever that answer is. There's not a one size fits all on that. There's just not.
Yeah. I agree.
Yep. Well, cool. Chrissie, you have anything else you want to add before we?
I'm sorry about your mom, Alexandria. You lost your mom. Or who is that? Evan.
Evan. Yeah, that was Evan. Yep.
No, I'm just really I'm thankful just to be a part of the conversation. It's something that if there's anything I can do to help at all, it honestly makes me uncomfortable to a degree to even talk about it, because I don't know, it feels icky. Like, to me, I'm sharing to share to help. The idea that I'm, that's it. So it's weird to talk about, but
Yeah.
I'm glad we had the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. And I appreciate you carving time out of your schedule to come on. Like, I've really enjoyed this. And I'm going to speak for you. You can tell me if I'm wrong, but I don't think you are because of other stuff you said. If somebody's watching and they don't want people to know what they're going through, I'm sure Chrissie's DMs are open.
Oh, yeah.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. And that's one of the things that for that whole website thing, is part of that reason as well. So, but yeah, absolutely. And there were people that were kind enough to speak to me when I was needing somebody to talk to, and I mention it all the time. So you can imagine how powerful it was for me that people were there to talk to me and people were there for me to relate to. There's no way that I would have made the decision I did in that moment without it. So, to me, it's a responsibility to do that for others. And I get it. When you read other people, what they're going through, sometimes you just really get it and you really understand. and somebody just really needs to be seen, you know, because sometimes, you know, it's interesting, and I know we're over on time, but it's interesting, like the whole thing yesterday about generational trauma.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes people don't, like people who don't get it, they don't get it, and they think you're being melodramatic,
Mm-hmm.
you're playing something up that so-and-so had this happen to them, and all you had was an annoying parent, and you're acting like the world's caving in. And it's like, but there's these emotional things that can happen when you're little that can really impact how you see yourself, can impact how you experience the world. And the way that that manifests can make it to where, you know, you have this pain that you end up with addiction, or you end up being crazy triggered, you end up with,
Yeah.
you know, response reactions that you have to deal with. And that sucks. It's really not fun.
Yeah, I bet. Who do we have? 2 weeks from now, we have Hank Atone. My first guest of the season was Krista Scamahorn. She came on and talked about her son being in prison and all that. Her son is going to be our guest in 2 weeks. Monday night on So I Did a Thing, I have Anna Leonarda for Valentine's Day. When I was thinking about who I wanted for Valentine's Day, I was looking at like relationship coaches or something like that, just kind of a cliche sort of thing. And then I ran across Anna, who has a dating app for people that have some sort of sexual dysfunction. So like you have a guy with ED, it could be really intimidating to try and go out on a date and explain this to the girl he's dating, that he's got issues. So it kind of pairs people up that have some sort of sexual dysfunction. So that it's kind of, they're more open about it, they're more comfortable talking to each other. And if the sex and the intimacy is off the table for both of them, then neither one of them has to worry about being ashamed of it. So I figured that would be a different twist on the Valentine's Day thing.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
It's not as good as the Bachelor LinkedIn Live edition.
No.
Oh my gosh, I may or may not be a Bachelor franchise fan.
Well, we've been toying around with this idea for a while, mainly just to give Nathan a hard time, but then I'm also recently single. So now it's just been like this. Well, when are we going to do the Bachelor Live edition?
Oh my gosh, I love The Bachelor. It's terrible. It is the most like, it's this just shameless pleasure. It's terrible. I watched the very first one
Yeah.
in college. Like I watched the first one.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. As a Bachelor fan, do you think that it's scripted?
Oh yeah.
Thank you. Okay. That's all I wanted to hear.
I was once on sort of a reality show, as like, it was like one of those, it was a one with Gordon Ramsay.
Mm-hmm.
And I was me and some people were in the like restaurant relaunch. Oh, the whole thing's scripted. The whole thing's scripted. So, and I mean, it's hilarious because it's like the storylines are all the same every season.
Yeah, every season. Thank you, Krista. I used to argue with my ex-wife about that.
Yeah,
it's not scripted.
Well, I mean, so I love Dr. Phil too. Don't judge. And so I went to see Dr. Phil, see the show twice.
Mm-hmm.
But I went, one of the first times I went, it was like, I was more fascinated to see how production happened,
Mm-hmm.
just as much as being there. Like, it was really cool to be able to see, like, how do they piece these together? I was pathetically floored when I got to see them, because I always wondered, I'm like, so when they do these 2-part episodes, how is he just sitting there talking about the next part? Do they know they're going to have 2 parts? Like, how does this work? And then I saw that what they do is they have him sitting in the seat, but they're so tight that you can't see the people next to him. And then they use camera shots of those people as though they're sitting there, but they're actually not. I know.
Whoa.
Your mind is blown. Yep. These are the types of things that blow my mind. Like, and I know. Now I know.
That's awesome.
And I received a whole bunch of Robin's skincare as a giveaway.
Oh, well, look at you go. Was it worth a flip?
wasn't bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
cool.
skincare's the same. It's just different brands, but it's all the same products.
Yeah.
And
All
I
right,
got a Dr.
guys.
Phil mug.
What?
Yeah, that are not anywhere, but only there.
Did you steal it out of the lobby?
No, they have to fire up the crowd before you start, and so you
Oh,
handed it.
okay. Okay. All right, y'all. We're gonna get out of here. Chrissie, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. It was awesome.
All right, we'll see y'all next time.